Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video for today. So on Tuesday, after the market closes, AMD, previously known as Advanced Money Destroyer, now known as Advanced Money Doubler, is going to report their quarterly figures and give us guidance for next quarter, and hopefully give us guidance on that AI data center, GPU accelerator, all of that guidance that we got last year, right? That $5 billion or in excess of $5 billion revenue generated last year. Hopefully, we finally get that guidance for 2025. Now, going into 2025, analysts had expectations that were quite high. Analysts thought that in 2025, AMD would generate around, I think it was, let's say $12 billion at the midpoint. Then that was lowered to around $8.4, $8.5 billion. Right now, I do have a feeling with all the news that we've got more recently, especially all of the price target upgrades that we've got more recently, and the report that said that AMD is hiking its prices because there is a lot of demand and because they're quite confident in their product, then I would say that hearing at least doubling 2024's revenue should be enough to satisfy the market, which means at least $10 billion generated for 2025. Now, the ideal case scenario is getting a number, right? Them saying, oh, we expect $10 billion, $10.5 billion, hopefully a little bit more. But if I'm hearing we expect to at least double last year's figure, I think that should be good enough, because for the last two quarters, what did we get? Nothing, right? Oh, we expect to grow high double-digit growth. High double digit doesn't give me anything, right? High double digit is quite a long range. Then they said, oh, we expect to generate tens of billions of dollars in revenue over the next coming years. Again, cool, we know that, but we want to get a number. We want to get a number for 2025, because we know that the fun starts in 2026 as well, right? We know that MI350 is ramping up. We know that in 2026, sorry, I said 25, I think 26. 26 is where the MI400 is going to be introduced. Now, I don't know when exactly that will be introduced, probably either mid-26 or in the back half of 2026. But MI350 ramping up, I think, with, of course, a higher ASP should be quite interesting for AMD. So let's go over everything you need to know before Tuesday. Let's go over the analyst estimates here in this video. If you enjoy this type of videos, hit all the buttons. Jose and myself are going to go live for AMD's earnings report on Tuesday. So make sure you are subscribed and you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming live streams. If you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment to the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. All right, so let's first go and look at the estimates. What do analysts expect AMD to report on Tuesday? All of this is available to you on fiscal.ai here. So if we look at revenue, analysts expect AMD to report $7.43 billion in revenue. I have something in my eye. $7.43 billion in revenue for the quarter. Looking at EPS, that's expected to be down quarter over quarter, margins as well because of that one-time hit. We'll talk about that in a bit. EPS 48 cents. As for EBIT, that's expected to come down as well, logically just above $1 billion expected, and free cash flow around $796 million. Now, if we look at AMD's guidance, by the way, this was a nice beat last quarter, 2.4% beat here. Market was expecting 7.2 back then, 3 months ago. AMD guided for $7.4 billion. Remember that in Q1, AMD beat consensus figures by 4.7%. Could we see another big beat for the quarter? I would hope so. But gross margin, as you can see, a big miss of 927 basis points. One-time hit of those charges, gross margin 43%, excluding the one-time charges, those would have been 54%, which was a beat. Now, if you remember, AMD had their Advancing AI event, where here as well, Lisa Su talked about the future projections of that data center AI accelerated market. It's expected to grow over 60% compounded from 2023 up until 2028. So that's just 3 years from now, less than 3 years from now. It's expected to reach $500 billion. As for inference is growing at even faster pace, over 80% CAGR also, from 2023 all the way to 2028. And of course, AMD positioning itself quite well for inference. This should be very, very good for them. Then they talked a little bit more about their product portfolio across the board. So new products that will be announced, such as AMD Helios, which will be available in 2026. AMD Helios is the AI rack that combines next-gen EPYC Venice CPUs, the MI400 GPUs, and Pensando Volcano AI NICs with ROCm 7 plus UA Link compatibility as the premier offering for open scale-up networks for at-scale training and inference. This is basically where the fun starts, but that's just for 26 and probably the back half of 2026. Then, when talking about the MI400, for example, first of all, there's a huge jump already here from the MI325 to the MI355, but then look at that jump for the MI400 series, up to 10x more performance for the most advanced frontier models, making MI400 the highest performing accelerator. And we also know that OpenAI was involved in the MI400, probably MI500 as well. So whatever big project is coming up, whether it's the smaller Stargate projects in the United States, maybe some in the Middle East, we could see AMD being involved and not just Nvidia. Of course, we've also heard from Oracle, we've heard from Humane. So huge deals have been announced already. Now it's up to AMD to actually recognize all of that revenue over the upcoming quarters and years. Now, if we look at what the market is expecting AMD to do operating profit-wise for the next coming fiscal years, it's expected to go from $2.67 billion in the last 12 months, or $7.35 billion for fiscal 25, and grow all the way to $13.65 billion in 2027. Looking at free cash flow, it's expected to grow from $5.34 billion in fiscal 25 all the way to $9.32 billion in fiscal 27. And that's quite interesting because if I do remember correctly, a couple of months ago, that number was a bit closer to $11 billion. So analysts have revised those numbers down, despite them being a bit more bullish today based on the average analyst price target and the momentum that we're seeing with AMD's business. Okay, we'll see what happens with that. Now, when AMD will report, of course, all eyes will be on the data center revenue, which has been increasing quite rapidly, as you can see from the red line right here. But the other part, the client and gaming segment, which are now combined, that has been growing, especially the client side. Client has been growing very, very rapid, 67.7% year-over-year growth. Definitely don't sleep on the client side of things, especially not when we look here at the operating income. Client and gaming has seen an acceleration here, has seen some growth, especially over the last 2 quarters, and that comes from client momentum. Gaming, not so much. But then as for embedded, because you also have the embedded side of things, gaming and embedded have been a drag on the business, expected to be some tailwinds towards the back half of this year. And embedded is a high margin business. So if they can add from embedded another, let's call it $300-500 million of operating income, I mean, that adds up over time. Looking at where AMD generates the majority of their revenue, of course, comes at no surprise. That's per year, by the way. So last year, $8.6 billion from $25.2 billion comes from the United States. Then we've got $6.2 billion coming from China. China is a big deal for AMD, which is why that now that they could start to sell again into China is a very, very bullish thing for AMD. We then have Japan here at $3.6 billion, Europe at $3.3, Taiwan $1.7, and Singapore $1.62 billion. That was in fiscal 2024. Now here's the important talk, right? Because everybody's talking about, oh, AMD can catch up to Nvidia, AMD is the next Nvidia, blah, 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 blah. Well, as I've shown you time and time again, in order for AMD to even touch Nvidia's feet, a lot needs to change, right? Because if we look here at free cash flow margin, for example, Nvidia versus AMD, AMD sits around 10% right now. Nvidia sits around 46.6% free cash flow margin over the last 12 months. Of course, you can see when the big change for Nvidia happened, right? After ChatGPT got released, suddenly we saw that huge growth, not just year over year, but quarter over quarter for Nvidia. For AMD, we're yet to see that spike up. When that will happen, that's when things will get very interesting here. Now, on the other side, if you look at the gross profit margin side of things, AMD over the last 6 years or so, 7 years, they have been improving every single quarter, every single year. But here again, we are still far away from an Nvidia. Nvidia sits closer to 75%. AMD, as you've seen, next quarter is expected to be 54%. So there's still quite a wide margin here to be compared to an Nvidia. I'm not saying it will never happen, but I've seen already some people make that statement that, oh, it will happen soon enough. No, it will take some time. But that's fine. That's fine. If we believe that AMD can be a $500 billion company or maybe even a $1 trillion company in the future, then yes, we will be patient and we will reap the rewards whenever they reach those highs. Last couple of things here. If you are bearish on Nvidia and AMD, especially when it comes to their continued growth potential, well, you just have to look at this. Capex for Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta on an annual basis. Right now, for all of those four, it sits at just under $300 billion. And that's growing. And I'm just talking here about 4 players, right? There are many other players. Of course, not every other player has such capex or expansion plans. Of course not. But I'm not even here talking about countries, right? Because countries are also investing tens of billions of dollars. So I don't know how you can be bearish on an Nvidia or an AMD when you see this. Plain and simple. Now, last thing here, and that stock-wise. Stock-wise, we have gone up 123% since the lows here back in April. So tremendous returns already over the last couple of months. On the daily here, we are a little bit overbought still. We have seen a tiny pullback here, which is something that we've seen before, right? You look at this here, we go up, we pull back a tiny bit, we go up again, we pull back a tiny bit, we go up, and now we pull back a tiny bit. Of course, now with the earnings, you will have a big move on the up or downside. What's also interesting is that right now, it seems like the stock is where we were seeing previous resistance back here, October 2024. Now again, the next big move will happen because of the earnings report. To me, it's pretty simple. Expectations are quite high. Okay, much higher than before. Because while the stock has gone up, market cap has gone up, valuation has gone up. So a lot is already priced in. So don't be surprised if we have a double beat and the stock goes down. Because at these prices, at these valuations right now, at these expectations, it is not enough to meet or even beat a little bit. You have to beat by a nice margin. Guidance needs to be much better than expected, and the comments during the call needs to be very good. I think, this is my prediction, if we have a double beat, which I think we will have, guidance, we should be getting more color and actual numbers on that AI revenue for 2025. I think this is going to be, again, analysts will just ask it time and time again, could you give us more color? Could you give us a number? And them not giving us a number in this earnings call might show some weakness. Them actually giving us a number in this earnings call and then maybe even raising that, this is something that we've seen last year, by the way, that's going to be very good. That's going to be very good. I do think they have quite a lot of momentum, so it would be surprising to me if they do not share any figure. That's just my prediction right here. Would I chase and buy before the earnings? No, I don't think so. Me personally not. I have a nice position If we go down, the numbers are good, then I'll probably buy more, but I'm not chasing here. The stock is stretched. There is a lot anticipated already, a lot expected. So there's no reason to chase. And so all in all, that's about it. That's everything you need to know about AMD going into this earnings report. Like I said, Jose and myself will go live when they report earnings, even a little bit before the market closes, as always. So make sure you are subscribed and you have those notifications on as well. Share your predictions down in the comment section below, hit all the buttons, and we'll see each other in the next one. Bye-bye.